Welcome to Engaged Company Culture, a podcast directed at you, helping you to stop the employee exodus in your organization. This podcast has 3 different types of episodes. First, you have tips, tricks, observations, stories, research from me, Dr. Catherine Weiberg of Profitable Alignment. Second, interviews with other consultants, other coaches who are here to serve you so you can learn other tips and tricks to engaging your employees, to stop the employee exodus, to consciously create and continue a company culture where people want to be and where they encourage other people to come to work and to become your customers. Third, I interview other business leaders who have engaged company cultures and want to share their stories. You might learn from them how they have applied principles of company culture to increase their employee retention, increase their profits, increase their productivity, and increase everyone's job satisfaction. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. On today's Engaged Company Culture podcast, I welcome Mike Boccia, who has been in sales and marketing for over 25 years. He's been called a serial entrepreneur since starting his first business, landscaping, at 15. Then came a limo company while attending Hofstra University, a nightclub at 21, a restaurant at 23, and the list goes on. Mike really honed his sales skills as a licensed advisor with Transamerica Financial Advisors, where he had hundreds of clients in several states without ever having a customer complaint. How many of us can say that? That is huge. Other reps saw Mike's success and started asking for his help. And of course, he was happy to oblige. Eventually, he began opening successful financial offices and training advisors to work in them. After seeing the rapid growth, Transamerica soon had Mike speaking at conferences, flying to other offices to train, and attending high-level meetings to discuss the future of the firm. Mike eventually left the financial industry and ventured into the technology space, where he founded iDecide Interactive. Mike is now an author, speaker, coach, CEO, and most importantly, a father to his 2 beautiful daughters. Mike, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
You've done so many entrepreneurial pursuits. You've tried so many things. You have excelled, and it seems you have enjoyed it. What advice would you give to other leaders?
Well, it's funny. I find today, especially more so than in the past with the TikTok generation, social media, I find that people expect things to be easy. People see the people on social media, the quote unquote influencers, they're out there, taking pictures of them on private jets and, yachts and trying to make it look like business is an overnight success. So the advice I would have is just know in advance it's going to be hard. But that's okay. I think if you go into it thinking it's going to be easy and then you're shocked when you hit obstacles or, experiences setbacks. But I think if you know in advance, okay, this is going to be hard. It's supposed to be hard, but that's okay. Mm-hmm. You're going to get through it. And I've never met a successful person yet who has said, oh, it was a piece of cake. I haven't, maybe they're out there, but I've never met one. So that's probably the biggest piece of advice I would have.
That's fantastic. The wonderful thing about it is that if you think about it, if success were easy, if entrepreneurship were easy, everybody would be doing it. Yeah. And if you look at the history of an overnight success, it's never overnight. It's just that overnight people have become aware of it.
Exactly.
You never track, oh my goodness, this person was working for 7 years out of the garage or out of the basement or doing this as a side hustle. It's oh my goodness, Mike Boccia is a millionaire. How did that happen? And oh, do you want to know how hard this was?
It's so funny. I have a friend of mine who's an actor, and it's especially in that field, right? Because once they pop, right, then they're everywhere. You see them everywhere, and that they use that term. They're overnight sensation, where they came out of nowhere. You didn't see the 10 years they've already spent going to audition after audition and not booking anything, and then all of a sudden, once they popped, now they're an overnight sensation in your eyes, but not in reality. So
Exactly. It's just that all of a sudden, over somebody else's night, somebody has come into the view.
yeah, but I think, like you said, that's what makes it worth it, right? I use the example of the Rocky. I love the Rocky series, and I tell if Rocky were fighting a wimp, a 95-pound guy, then it wouldn't be a good story, right? There would you would be much, but because he's fighting a bigger, more experienced opponent or more threatening opponent, that's what makes it good. That's what we want to see. That's what makes the payday, like you said. Nobody's going to pay him anything to fight a 95-pound wimp, right? But when you're fighting someone that's bigger than you and you're the underdog, and in business, you're the underdog, or in leadership in general, even if it's not business, whether you're running a nonprofit or a school or whatever, it's just the size of the opponent determines the greatness of the outcome, I think.
I love that. The size of the opponent, also the size of the inspiration. So who inspires you? Who do you follow and why?
I follow a lot of different people. I think mentors are incredibly important. So if I had to give a second piece of advice, it would be to find a mentor for your business, because people have been through what you're going through. So there's no reason for you to go it alone, especially now with the internet. I mean, it's easy to find the right mentors, and so much information is available for free. But I think it's also important to find a mentor in different areas of your life, not necessarily one person that you're going to follow blindly. When I was starting out in business, I would find the best mentor to help me in that particular business, but they were not necessarily great with their own finances. So, okay, I'm going to take what they know about business, but I've got to find another financial mentor. And then, okay, now this person's not really living the family life that I want to live. So I'm going to find another inspiration, another mentor in that area of my life. So I kind of look at it as all of our lives, we're kind of like the CEO of our life, and we have different departments, right? I have my spiritual life, my family life, my business life, my financial life, my give back, my whatever it is that I choose to do in order to give back. So, I think it's important to find mentors in each of those areas. So maybe you want to improve your spiritual life, and you say, okay, I'm going to follow like a Jay Shetty and just have his, mental calmness, which I do follow him as for that. I love to be more like a monk, right? And then different mentors as far as, each of those departments of my life goes. So I don't think there's really just one, but I think we should have many. Why not?
I love that. I love that you talked about having mentors for different parts of your life, recognizing that each person has different strengths. You have different strengths. Maybe as you find somebody who can help in this area, you might be able to help that person in something where you are strong. Or somebody will look at you and say, oh, Mike is so amazing at especially sales, for example, or technology, and say, maybe he can mentor me because I have a passion there, but I don't have everything that I need.
Yeah.
And then building on that.
Yeah, because and even myself, so people that I mentor, I don't expect them to blindly follow me. That would be ridiculous, right? So maybe I'm a little more of a risk taker than they care to be. Well, that doesn't mean you should say to yourself, okay, I need to become more of a risk taker. Maybe in some regard, but if that doesn't make you feel comfortable, then you go find someone else who's successful, but isn't as big of a risk taker, right? You're going to jive with that person, and that's the way you'll grow. So yeah, very, very important, I think, to have many different people that you follow and look up to and follow and mentor from, take mentorship from.
I love that you mentioned that you can find people who are successful where you want to be successful, and maybe the personalities don't jive or don't match up. So I loved your example of risk taking, because there might be somebody who is successful because of his or her risk taking, or there might be somebody who is successful without that risk taking. And you can choose the mentor. Do you want to choose the one who's going to challenge your way of thinking and make you uncomfortable and force you out of your comfort zone in that area? Or do you want to go to somebody who matches how you feel about things and still has found success, and maybe challenge your tactics, not necessarily who you are, but your tactics for getting there? And you can take either avenue.
Yeah, I know. It's a great example. I have somebody that I follow in business is partnered with another gentleman who's very successful in business, but they have different personalities. I mesh with one. The other one has an attitude. I mean, I heard him do a podcast or a video once, and his message was about competition and being aggressive in your business. And he said, you got to go after your competition. You got to eat them alive. You got to tear off their head and spit down their neck. And I was like, what the heck? That is not me as a person. You know, I don't believe somebody has to lose in order for me to win. That's just not my worldview. Right. So I said, okay, he's not the person I want to follow. He's making a lot of money, very successful. That works for him. God bless. It's not what I want to do. So, you know, don't feel like, oh my gosh, I have to get more aggressive and I have to learn to rip off their heads. No, you don't. You don't. You're good enough the way you are. Just find someone who's just like you, who's made it to, you know, to where you want to go, and you'll be fine. You don't need to change who you are as a person to be successful, I don't think.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So with all of this that we've talked about so far, I'd like to hear something in your life experiences that has shaped who you are today.
You know, it's horrible. Well, it's not horrible. It's counterintuitive, really, I think, when you say this, but I think it's the failures that have today, which again, nobody wants to go through them, right? I mean, when I used to travel with Transamerica to do the speaking for the different conventions and offices, and I would ask them when I'm preparing for the talk, I'd say, you know, when they ask me to come speak, I'd say, fine, you know, I can speak on all these different topics. What would you like me to talk about? And they would always say, well, we heard your story. We want you to tell your story. And I said, oh, I said, can't you choose something else? My story's hard. You know, I don't want to tell that story over and over again, because it's a story of bankruptcy. It's a story of, you know, struggle. It's a story of, but it's that Rocky story, right? Where you overcome all that and then you win. People want to hear that story. But, you know, so I think what the experiences that have made me who I am, or the struggles and the failures, because they've taught me humility. They've taught me to be less of a risk taker. They've taught me to balance my life a little better instead of, you know, going all in on business or all in. And I think you have to go temporarily out of balance in life in order to achieve permanent balance. But there still has to be some type of a balance, so you're not totally neglecting your kids as you're building your business and so forth. But so that was a really long answer to your short question. But I think the experiences that I've benefited from the most in the long term, which again, you don't see when they're happening, right? You just, I'm going through hell. Well, I always tell people, yeah, if you're going through hell, then go faster. Go through. It's not I'm you know, it's the phrase is I'm going through hell. Well, then get the heck through it already. You know, don't try and find ways to avoid it, or, you know, just go through it. You're being taught something, so learn it, or else the universe will keep teaching you that lesson until you do learn it. So.
I love it. I love it. I admit one of my favorite country songs, which is now old, is called If You're Going Through Hell. And it talks about, if you're going through hell, keep on going and get out before the devil even knows you're there. I love it. And that's exactly what you're saying. It's the Rocky story. It's it was horrible and I got through it. It was hard and I learned. It's the opportunity to really embrace appreciatively what you've gone through. One of the things that I teach leaders and organizations and individuals is to reframe those experiences. Find in those experiences new perspectives, new learnings. How did you become stronger? What would you do differently? Because as you reframe it, you gain benefit. So even if it was hell at the moment, you're going to gain benefit. And in one way or another, it's going to become heaven, either for you or for somebody else, because of what you've learned as a result.
So good. Yeah. A pastor, I heard, this struck me, sometimes you hear things and they hit you like a lightning bolt. I was in church one day and the pastor was talking about overcoming adversity. And he said, eventually your test will become your testimony. And I said, oh, gosh, that is so true. But, if you don't quit, right, that's the whole point. So I have friends that are going through struggles. And I said, look, well, what are your options? You're going to quit now? Then what? All misery was for nothing. So you're halfway there, or 3/4 of the way, or 20%, whatever it is. Just finish it, and now you've got a hell of a story. And it's like the analogy of the dog in the front yard with an electric fence. If he would just run through that electric fence, he'd experience a little temporary pain, but on the other side of that fence is all the freedom in the world. He can do whatever he wants, right? But most people go up to the fence, they get shocked, and then they stop and they say, oh, that hurt. I'm going to withdraw, retreat. So it's just run through it, and it's got to be done. There's no easy way. It's just like going to the gym. It's going to hurt, but there's no other way to get fit without it, right? So
it's
just
a good kind of hurt.
Yeah, just get it, because the reward is worth it, right? But that's, I guess, sometimes people don't think the reward is worth it. So maybe they might be saying to themselves, I don't know if it's worth this pain. Well, that's a decision that has to be made too. How bad do you want it? That's another country song I used to when that was an old one, right? How bad do you want it? And it's true. And your why has to carry you through all those tough times till you get through to the other side.
Absolutely. Oh, this is fantastic. So we've talked a lot about your individual journey, the individuals that you follow, what you would say to leaders. Let's apply all of this to organizations. How would you take these experiences, these stories, this advice, and apply it to organizations to engage their company culture, to become stronger, so forth?
Yeah, well, from a leader perspective, I think if the leader understands that they're going through some tough times, but again, if their attitude is right and they understand, okay, this too shall pass, right, and I just have to work my way through it, then their team will feel that as well. Because I think people are very intuitive, and if the speed of the leader is the speed of the pack. So if you're stressed and you're down, that is going to come across in your team, right? They're going to know that. They're not stupid. Even if you don't say it, they just feel it. So, I think maintaining the proper attitude, of course, is always key. But I think also, I talk a lot about caring. You mentioned earlier in my introduction that I had, hundreds of clients when I was in the financial customer complaint, which I guess just from hearing that, if you're not, it kind of sounds, oh, well, you shouldn't have a complaint. But in that industry, it's very common to have customer complaints, because when people lose money, they feel like they have to blame somebody, right? And I was in it for 18 years. We saw market spikes, market crashes, and I still never had a customer complaint. And that's because I really genuinely cared about my clients. I mean, right before the 2008 crash, I literally was going door to door to my clients. I was a Sunday morning, I remember, knocking on my client's door, basically saying, the sky is falling, we need to do something. And they were like, what are you here on a Sunday morning? I said, I left you messages. You didn't pick up, you didn't call. We have to do something to protect your money. And I think because I really cared about them losing money, I invested in their future. Not financially, emotionally, and mentally. So, and the same is true with an organization. I think if you really care about your employees, you care about staff, you care about your team, I think that comes through. Even when you're having a tough time, the team will feel that, but that you still care and that it's important to you, and you're spiritually engaged and mentally and emotionally engaged. I'll respect that, and that culture will survive that tough period.
I think that's fantastic. Thank you. We've seen through research and studies that have been done the last few years with COVID and what has been called the Great Resignation, that people who are leaving will primarily cite that they didn't feel valued, or they didn't feel connected. They felt like they were just a number, and they didn't feel that anybody cared about them in the organization. They weren't engaged. It wasn't just the paycheck. So exactly like you're saying, if the sky is falling, how are we going to protect our people?
Yeah.
How are we going to get them to know you're valuable more than just to the bottom line? Yes, you feed the bottom line, but you're valuable as a person.
Yeah. It's funny, we just did our annual reviews at the end of the year, of course. And one of the questions that I ask is, I ask a series of questions during the review, and I said, what do you think you're doing well? What do you think you can improve on? What do you think the company is doing well, and what can we improve on?
Excellent.
And then most importantly, where do you want to be in 5 years, and how can we help you get there? I'm not asking you to commit to staying here for 5 years, although I'd love you to. But what are some things that you want to learn, and how can grow, and how can we help you do that? And the responses are, well, I want to get better at this. I said, okay, so maybe we can pay for a course for you to take. They'd be like, oh my gosh, that's great. So, but it's interesting, that idea to ask that question about where they want to be and what we can do to help came from one of our employees.
Perfect.
And she said, hey, this is really important to people nowadays. They want to know you care, and they really do want to grow and learn. And I said, wow, I never thought of that. So again, it goes back to caring and respecting the input of everybody on your team, and not being the hard-nosed leader who, we're going to do it this way, and I'm closed off to all suggestions and recommendations, because the best ones come from the team, right? So yeah, and I just believe in creating that culture, really believe me, I don't think I do it enough either. I think it's something we all need to improve upon, but just simple things like buying everybody a coffee on the way to the office one day. Can we work from home today? My dog is sick. Yes, of course. Little things like that, let them know, okay, at least he understands and he appreciates me as a person. But I think that's becoming more commonplace nowadays, thank God. But I don't know, I still think we all need to get better at it.
I agree. And we find as time goes on that the little things were not little. As you do the quote unquote small things, oh wow, that made a big difference because you cared enough to do the small thing. You have created a culture of growth, a culture of improvement, recognizing that you'll never be perfect, but you'll always be better. And caring about your front line, because your front line understands all of the weeds of the business. They understand where are the roses, where are the dandelions, where are the noxious weeds. Dandelions have benefit as well, but there are some weeds that are going to kill everything. And they're going to be able to tell you, well, what can we do instead? I love that you listened to your employee who brought that up, and then you showed that person, what, we are listening, and that is valuable. And we do care about what you have to say. So maybe other people have things they can share. It's wonderful.
Yeah. And as leaders, sometimes, because we have so many plates we're spinning, that it's easy to let that one fall, really attention to the employees and the company and the culture. So I love that you do this podcast because it is so important. And, we're dealing with, technology challenges, customer challenges, banking issues, all the different plates that we spin. And then we take for granted the people that are really making it all happen in the first place. It's so easy to do, but it's so important not to do. So yeah, I need to get better at it all the time. I think we all do.
Which is a fantastic goal always, to be never beating yourself up, but still getting better all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what do you find most rewarding in your work right now?
To me, when a customer calls and comments on the experience they've had, and we get this all the time, thank God. I mean, it's something that we really focus on is customer service, customer satisfaction. So when we get emails like, man, you're the first company, we got this one a couple of weeks ago, you're the first company we've ever worked with that actually did what they said they were going to do and actually went above and beyond that.
Wow.
Customer service, your customer service team is awesome. They're so kind and so efficient. So hearing that, is because if we can do everything we can on our end, but if they don't see it, then what's the point, right? So you'll be the greatest company in the world with no customers, you'll be out of business. So you have to make sure you're keeping your house in order and the culture right and the employees happy and running the business right. But from the outside looking in, I see that a lot. Companies focus more on what they're seeing, what their employees see, or what's happening inside, and don't stop to take a look and say, okay, now what is our customer saying? And it's so important. We just actually did it with a new system. We just built a new product. And now I just said the other day, I said, we haven't looked at the customer facing tool yet, not yet, but a while. Let's revisit that. It's been a couple of months. Let's see exactly, because we've made improvements to it, but let's see what they're seeing. And is it as easy as we think it is? Maybe it's not. Maybe the first thing they see is getting overwhelmed and they're scared. So, that's just always being aware of our customers. So I think to me, that's important. I just love hearing the customer feedback and the positive experiences they're having.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to reach out to you after listening to or viewing this podcast, what is your preferred or the best way for someone to reach you?
Well, I'm getting better at social media. But I'm not there yet. So you probably just go to my website, mikeboccia.com, and you can sign up for a newsletter and learn when I'm going to be speaking or on podcasts and so forth. But that's probably the best way now. And as I get better at social media, you'll know about it there as well. That's just something that I need to improve on. It's something I've been fighting for years, but it's not going away. So.
Yeah, very good. Oh, that is fantastic. And all of your links will be in the show notes. But I always like to find out, what is your preferred? What's the easiest way?
I appreciate that.
From this conversation, what do you most want listeners and viewers to remember or take away?
Again, kind of back to the first thing I said earlier, but I think it's so important, it's worth repeating, where, it's going to be hard. Building a business, leading a team, leading an organization is hard. So if you're looking for the get-rich-quick deal, let me know when you find it. But I've never found it yet, and I've been doing this for decades. I don't know anybody else who's found it. So stop looking for it and just focus more on, okay, how do I just get through the hell and get to where I want to be, get very clear on my goals, make sure I accomplish those goals, make sure that goal is also benefiting other people in the process. I think that's incredibly important, help enough people get to what they want, you'll get what you want. So I think that's the main thing. But I don't want it to come off as a downer either. Like, oh my gosh, this guy's so negative. Being hard is not a negative, in my opinion. It's just what has to be done so you get it done. Simple, just get it done.
I agree. Being hard builds strength. We go back to Rocky. His training regime was not easy, but look at all of the strength that he developed, including his internal locus of strength, not only his physical strength, but who he was in himself.
Yeah.
It has to be hard to build character.
But if you look at it over the long term of the course of your life, the amount of time that you have to spend in that quote unquote hell is not that long.
Not
Right?
really.
Sitting down with somebody once, and again, one of those things that just hit me. And she was telling me about all these things that have happened in her life in like a short 3-month period or whatever it was. You know, got foreclosed on, I got sick, and my mom died, or whatever the case was. And I said, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry." And she goes, "Oh, that's okay. It's just a frame in a movie."
Oh, I love that.
It was awesome, wasn't it? Just one frame in a movie. That's like, wow, that's so true. But while we're going through, we feel like, man, this is the whole film.
Right.
It's just one frame. You'll get through it, and the rest of the movie will be awesome. So,
Oh, that's beautiful.
yeah.
I just might incorporate that into my reframe, rewrite, redesign model because, or at least in my explanation, because I absolutely love that.
It was awesome, wasn't it? It was great.
Yes. Mike, thank you so much for your time here today. I hope that everybody else has enjoyed this at least as much as I have. Your insights are fun, your personality is fun, and your story is inspiring. I love what you're doing to help other organizations, other leaders, and that you just keep on moving. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for all you do. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you for listening to or viewing today's Engaged Company Culture episode. I hope you have enjoyed the episode. I hope you have learned something and have something that you can apply today to engage your company culture and encourage your employees to enjoy work, looking forward to Mondays instead of only looking forward to Fridays. If you liked this episode, please share it with someone else you know. Also, like and subscribe to Engaged Company Culture anywhere you listen to podcasts. Thank you and have a wonderful day.